Well, good evening. I'm Pete Travisano. I'm chair of the Community Preservation Committee here in Phillipston. We're delighted to do this presentation, which we do every year, just to let people know what's going on with the CPC and let you know what the CPC is. We're going to talk about who's on the committee. We're going to talk about the types of projects that we can fund and how to do an application. So we're going to go through all of that this year. So why don't we start off by introducing ourselves? So there's some familiar faces, some not so much, but I'm Peter, and we'll introduce the people on the committee.
I'm Carla, I'm the clerk.
I'm Linda.
I'm John.
I'm Tom Speck, I'm me.
Tim Haley.
And
Greg Vine.
Greg Vine with the Admiral Daily News.
Kay Deans, Historical Society.
Gerhard Schleppman.
Sylvia Haley, Library Trustee. Karen Perkins, Library Trustee.
Back to me, Pete and Tim Haley from the Conservation. And the Community Preservation.
Chrissy, I work at the town hall, various assistant things. Karen Bolden, town clerk.
Garrett Full, Cemetery Commissioner.
From the Historical Society.
Okay. Chuck Clement, Cable and Broadcast Committee. Okay, and Chuck, is this gonna be a record that's gonna exist on the website?
Yes, it'll be posted on the town TV channel, Channel 22, and on the town YouTube channel. It'll take me about 3 or 4 days to process it and get it up there.
So when we start, let me turn the lights off, and my wife pointed out that this is really small to read, so it's gonna be a little easier to read up on the screen there.
A little easier to read.
A little easier for us old folks to read anyway. So why don't we move to the next slide? And so by the way, I mean, anybody can jump in at any point as far as members of the committee or folks that are joining us. So if you have a question or just want to add something or please do.
We can send the slides to Chrissy and she can put them on the website. I've noticed that on there.
I can.
So that if anybody wants to be able to read them a little bit better.
Okay, but
And we're going to send them to Chuck too, so that they'll be able to incorporate them into the presentation.
But I'm just as happy if this is a kind of a conversation rather than a presentation, so we can just talk about things as we go. But what we'll be talking about today are introductions, which we've already done. We'll talk about the Community Preservation Act and what that means. Talk about the types of projects that can be funded, how to apply for CPC funding, review of the dates for application, and the grant approval process, and should have time for questions and answers as we go. So next slide. So
Is it marketing?
No, it's just the, these are junk right here. Next year it'll be a better one, but there won't be any money left in the administrative budget. I can read it to you. It says, Peter Travisano, how much your name? Just read it off the paper.
Anyway, Peter Travisano, I'm Select Board Chair and serve at large, and we have Carla Charter. And Carla also serves on the Historical Committee, so we want, and actually it's required that we have members of various committees on our board, so we have a good representation of knowledgeable people about what's going on in town that are aligned with our mission. John Phillipston on the Planning Board, Tim Haley on the Conservation Committee. We do have an open seat, which is an at-large position, so somebody just stepped down, so we do have an open seat if anybody wants to join us on this committee. Linda Langevin, who is a at-large member, and Tom Specht, who is on the finance committee.
The open seat that we have would hopefully have someone that was along the lines of recreation and open space. Not sure what Linda has determined her specialty to be, or just knowledge of everything.
Probably from the Historical Society.
Yeah. So it's,
Well, we have members at large anyway.
yes, but we need someone that is dedicated to the recreation or open space also.
Selectmen said they were gonna get us a couple members,
Oh, nice.
He did?
Oh,
yeah, about a year ago.
So you'll see as we go that these different committees also align with our mission as we go, so it'll make some sense as we discuss all this. So, Community Preservation Act, so back in 2000, the legislature passed the Community Preservation Act that enables Massachusetts communities to raise funds and create and dedicate funds to build and rehabilitate playgrounds, recreation fields, protect open space. So if there's open space in town and there's a lot of it in Phillipston, we want to be able to protect that. We can support affordable housing projects. So it's a little difficult in some ways to envision that in Phillipston because we don't have a housing authority, but it's something that we would love to be talking about with people in Phillipston because we need public housing in Phillipston. There is no public housing in town, so it's something that we'd like to investigate and discuss and preserve historic buildings and resources. So we've been doing a lot of that. So next slide. So how it works is this. So in 2007, Phillipston adopted at town meeting to have a community preservation committee. It meant that money from our community tax base would go toward the CPC. Money that you pay in your taxes, a little bit of that money goes into funding the CPC. That looks like the first $100,000 of residential or commercial property is a little bit of that money goes toward the CPC. Low-income households, moderate income or senior households are excluded, and local CPC revenue is partially matched every year by the state. So whatever we raise by the state, there's a matching percentage by the state of Massachusetts that also goes to Phillipston. So over the years, we've been able to accrue a very substantial amount of money in the CPC. Next slide, Tim. So we have three primary responsibilities. Study community preservation needs, possibilities and resources, review and recommend CPA projects to the annual town meeting, which we do every year, and keep records and report on CPA budget. So those are the things that we're basically doing, and we meet every month. So this is what we have in terms of resources. So there's a significant amount of money in CPC funding. So the total amount of money that we have on hand is over $1 million. So $1,285,573. So that's a significant amount of money. In fact, it's too much money. For several years, I think especially during COVID, there was not money spent from the CPC, or not very much. So money has accrued over time in the CPC. That's great on one hand to have those resources. It's not so great because the state looks at the CPC funding that's available, has decided that Phillipston actually has more money and resources than we really have, so we don't get some money from the state because of the amount of money that we have. on hand in CPC. So we want to share that money. It's very important that we get this money out and not have it in our account. Go ahead, Karen.
So on the undesignated funds, can that be moved? Say there was a couple of projects in town and they were more than 125, say, can the money be moved from the
Yes.
undesignated?
So the undesignated reserve, that's where most of our money is, but that money could go to fund anything,
Okay,
any of these projects. So we've been spending a lot of money over the past few years on historic preservation, money for the library and for the church. That money's been going out, but if we needed to spend more than $20,000, which I'm sure we will this year, that money will come from the undesignated reserve.
And this year, the money that came in this year was $159,000. And normally, well, the next slide will show it. We're supposed to put a minimum of 10%, 10%, and 10% into the three: housing, open space, and historic. And it has to be a minimum of 10%, but we chose to put 80,000 into the historic so that we could cover we only have 20 in there, so we put 80,000 into the historic preservation, which was 10% of what came in would have only been 16,000. And so we bumped that up so that we could cover the two projects that we had this year. And so that otherwise it would have been way below zero. So, and then the gymnasium recreation facility was funded out of the undesignated reserve this year. And so it can be, if we had a big historic project that was gonna take $100,000, $150,000, we could take some out of the historic and then some out of the undesignated.
Right, so just to clarify, that money can be used for any of these projects or things that are eligible. It can't be just used for anything.
But if we had a huge project, we can't take it back out of historic and give it to that project. And we can't take it out of the housing and give it back to that. Once it's in there, it has to be used for that. It can't be pulled back out of the already designated.
Okay, so any questions? How are we doing so far? Okay. So next slide, Tim. You got something you want to say about this?
Yes, that little 5% of administrative, that's where we're gonna get our new projector from.
Okay, so we can spend money on in these four areas: open space, historic, recreation, and housing. So if we go down the line here, there's some things that we can do and some things we can't do for each one of these four categories. So for open space, we can acquire property, acquire open space. We can create open space. We can preserve open space. We can't rehabilitate or restore it. And we can't support it. I'm not quite sure what those.
Support means if we pay taxes with it on the open space or something like that, which would be an ongoing thing, or created, I guess, support it, you can't pay the bills for the open space facility or the recreation, if it's under recreation, can't support. But then it says rehabilitate or restore, it says unless acquired or created with CPA dollars, then you can acquire it and then rehabilitate it to put an open space.
Okay. As far as historic buildings, they can be acquired. Can't create an historic building because you actually can't create an historic building that exists already. You can certainly preserve a historic building. We've done a fair amount of that over the past few years. You can't support a public building, which I guess has to do with financial support.
And that's where, if the church or historical society or something like that applied for a grant to repaint the building, they consider that general maintenance, so that would be supporting it. Yeah, be using budget to enhance their budget so that it could be painted. They should fund that themselves. That's what the meaning of support for that is.
We can rehabilitate or restore, so funding has gone out to the church in particular to rehabilitate the windows on both sides of the building. We're looking at working with the church on some other projects going forward, but it's been a good partnership there. As far as recreation goes, we can acquire recreation space, we can create it, we can preserve it, we can support it, but we can rehabilitate and restore it. So when we look at some of the recreation spaces in Phillipston, including the ball fields here, or some other places that we might be able to think of, CPC money can certainly go toward that. As far as housing goes, we can support public housing projects as well. So it's a little tricky, but any questions regarding this slide? But these are the areas that we can help fund. So open space, public housing, recreation, and historic properties.
And this stuff might seem confusing, so we would encourage people to either ask questions or apply, give us their intentions, and we can see if we can make it work within the confines of the program. It seems confusing to me when we say, oh, we can do this, but we can't do that. It's actually a little more flexible than it seems.
I can read a little better on this screen if you want me to read this slide.
Go ahead, Tim. Yeah.
The Community Preservation Committee identified guiding principles. Advance projects with high or multiple community benefits. Select projects that have importance to the town and demonstrate multiple substantial community benefits, such as projects that address more than one CPA priority area. Prioritize urgent projects, analyze projects to determine the relative level of urgency of the work and possible phasing of project work. Maximize funding leverages. Favor projects that expand the impact of CPA funds through maximum leveraging with other public or private sources of funds, volunteers, efforts, and/or donated materials, supplies, or property. Ensure maintenance of CPA funded investments. Favor projects that demonstrate an adequate plan to financial capacity for ongoing maintenance required to protect any CPA funded investments. So if someone asks for a bunch of money and we say, well, can you support that after it's rehabilitated or whatever, they have to say yes. And they say, no, we don't have any money, but we want to do this, then it's not something that we should really promote. And the multiple community benefits would be a whole bunch of people use it, like the church, for one thing, is a lot of groups use that. The library, hopefully more and more people will use that. And the gymnasium that we funded last year, everybody uses that, from the town meetings to, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, Little League, basketball, community events. So that's where it has a big impact on it. It's being used by multiple groups. Anything else?
It's also helpful if you can show that you have an additional source of funding aside from the CPC, so maximize fund leveraging. So if you can see that funding is being leveraged from multiple sources, including the CPC, we look at that positively. So this will be funded in the past year. So, Phillipston Congregational Church. This is for the window restoration on the west side of the church, and previously we funded the window restoration for the east side of the church. PDA funds approved by the committee and by the town meeting was $30,000. There's a cost share by the church of $20,000. The category is historic preservation, and that's moving along pretty well, actually.
Yes.
Replaced, how do you get about that?
Yeah, the east side is completed, and they're coming out Friday to remove the 6 of the windows, to take them back to their shop and start working on the west side.
So next slide, Phillipston Free Public Library. Sylvia, you might want to tell us a little bit about that project, but basically it's to stabilize the sinking roof and the roof repair. We approved $50,000 for that this year. It's been a really ongoing long-term need for the town, and it's been difficult for the town to be able to find the type of funding that's needed to preserve the library, which we all want to preserve. It's a really historic building in town, so we're glad to be able to do that. So Sylvia's working hard with the contractors to ensure that the project is being done in a historically responsible way, and we're looking forward to getting that started pretty soon.
We have engineer plans now that I want the historical committee is meeting this week. They'll be reviewing them because we want to make sure that everything is worded properly on the plans, because we had architectural engineers taking doing the plans. So, the Board of Selectmen have required us to make sure that we are taking the proper steps, as it is a town building. And so, as was mentioned in the previous slide, yes, we're asking for CPA funds, and they've been approved at town meeting, but after the project is completed, it will be a town building, and so the town will continue to preserve that building, whether it needs painting or whatever maintenance needs to be done. So that's why we've been able to be approved with our applications.
And one of the things that was brought up on the plans, nowhere on the plans does it say that the contractor has to use historical methods or maintain the historical integrity of it. So that's one of the questions they have of what's it supposed to be done? It's replacing the foundation or some of it to support the walls. And on the plans, it says, dig it out and put some concrete in there. Is that a historically accurate way, or can it be done with a stone facing to make it look like it's a stone foundation? Because, right, if it's done with concrete, then it doesn't have the stone foundation look. So that's what they want to clarify before they put it out to bid, because if they put it out to bid with these plans, then they would bid on that and not know that it has to look like an old foundation. And I've done reading on what I think it was, they call it restored or preserved as a treatment or something like that. Somewhere in there was one of the things, and using new materials to look like old is acceptable if the old can't be repaired. And so using concrete to put, and then putting a stone veneer on it, make it look like an old foundation may be acceptable.
Okay.
So that's something that will have to be clarified. But they want to keep the historical integrity of it.
So the town of Phillipston applied for $160,000 for a rehabilitation of the walls and the floor of the gym of the Phillipston Memorial Building. So that was approved. And I believe that was also approved by the, we weren't entirely sure that that would be approved by the Attorney General, but apparently,
It's gone through, and
apparently,
that came out of, it's a recreation facility, but it came out of the undesignated reserves. And we haven't heard anything back saying that it couldn't be done.
so we're happy that it will be, and we want to do what we can to, help preserve the folks in Memorial Building. That's for sure. That's important. So these projects would not be funded on the CDC. We're happy to be able to offer that, and like we're doing what we're doing, and we'd like to be doing more. So this year, we've had to move up our application date, some because everything is being moved up for town meeting. So we have to have our articles in place by end of February. So we need to get our applications for this year approved a little bit earlier. So applications need to be in this year by November 15th. We'll make our recommendations to the town by March 1st or so. And by May 2026, hopefully the town will approve whatever we recommend. So the town's been very good in recent years about approving CPC recommendations, and we're grateful for that. Thing.
The November 15th, have an application in there. It's not too far away, but if you have an idea of doing something and you get in a preliminary application with the majority of it in there, then the details can be worked out a little better. Once, it comes to us, we'll say, oh, we need more information. Then, but at least we have to know that there's a project in the works.
We can turn the light on.
Yeah.
Peter?
Yeah.
Is your meeting to go over the applications, is that generally start taking place around January 15th in that area?
Well, as soon as we receive them, we can start looking at them, but I would say probably in reality, if we get the applications in by the middle of November, we're gonna be looking at them in December. With the idea of getting things wrapped up by the end of January. And also keep in mind, if you're thinking about an application and you have questions about it, committee meets on the second Monday of each month at 6:30 over at the town annex. So, happy to have you come by if you have some questions, we'd be happy to help you. I think on the application,
I put the application up, but we'd never be able to read it.
you don't want to do that. But, we've approved some applications that initially were filled out pretty plainly, pretty simply. We're happy to work with you to get the information that you need. So we want to approve applications. So
we'll work with applicants.
we will absolutely work with you. We do not want over $1 million to be sitting in the CPC. So we want to make it as easy as possible for people to apply. Tim, would you like to walk through the application itself?
Sure. Just gonna go check and see whether this application is getting posted on the community preservation. Okay. All right, we'll get Chrissy a copy so she can put it on the community preservation page. And you have one? It'll be a digital copy. Yeah, I mean, she's not gonna scan it, because this application, if you download the copy of it, you can just type it right in here, the fields are all fillable, and so you don't have to put it in your typewriter and roll it through. What we need is the name of the applicant, contact person, sponsoring organization, if applicable, either it's gonna be the town or a private entity, historical society, the church, the ball field, like I said, public out of the town, unless Little League Association wanted to get some money to do it. Total project cost, and then how much you want to get from the CPA, and if you have some money of your own, you know, what would be, what you have to put up for it. And then, of course, you could put open space and historic preservation if you had, think like the old mill state down on Cooling Village Mill. That was, we got some funding from, didn't we put funding for that down there?
Not yet.
I think it was just discussion.
Okay, but that could be open space and historic preservation, so it could be, and possibly recreation, you know, because there's hiking trails down
I have a question. For historic preservation, is there a time frame, like a building or a site have to be 100 years old, 50 years old? How do you consider it historic?
Well, I believe that there has to be,
there. Some sort of historic significance to the town, I mean, if it could be any age really, but it just has to have
I
a
think,
significance.
I think that definition might be made more clear from the historical commission. If the historical commission deems it a historic property and they have guidelines to go by for that.
or it could exist in a historic, historically designated area like the common, so that those would have automatically qualify. If there's a question, you go to the historical commission.
But I don't think there's an actual age.
Yeah, nothing I
And I'm
remember.
just thinking hypothetical, the ball fields and dugout.
Yeah.
If they were built in the 80s, are they considered historical now?
Well, they don't have to be, it's recreational.
I know.
Or open space. That's why I say, ask us questions, because we can
I'm
jump
sure
around.
the community preservation coalition or the actual act that was enacted back in 2000 probably has a definition on it as to what historical means. And from what I can remember, it's as long as it was significant of history of the town.
I don't think it would have to be deemed historic by the historical society or somebody would have to
I mean,
get
we-
together and decide whether it was a historical.
Right, I mean, we would probably, we would yield to what the historical committee
Right.
said, right? We're not gonna try to figure that out.
Yeah, and that's one of the requirements, is that there is a letter of support from the historical commission. Describe the project as well as you can. It doesn't have to be, there's a box that big and go way over that, it's too much. The goals of the proposed project. What do you want to get done? What's it gonna, well, the next one is the benefits. Who's it gonna benefit and why is it gonna benefit? The goals are to keep the building standing or get the ball field so you can play on it without having to rip your leg off. Whatever it is, you just want to make whatever the project needs to be done. Who's going to benefit and why is hopefully the more people, the better. And how they're going to benefit. How can you measure, how will success be measured? People start using the building or, you can, with whatever, the town common looks so much better. Spent a lot of money on it. Anyway, it's all judgmental, but. Community need. How does the community benefit from this project? What are you gonna, if it was for housing, hopefully some of the people in town that need to go into community housing end up moving there instead of wherever they gotta go. Community sport, everybody you can get that would support this project. One would be the historical commission, the town hall, or just a bunch of letters from concerned citizens saying that this would really be a good project. So get someone to write a letter of support, that would help. the budget, total cost, CPI funds, the cost share amount of applicable, I guess that's, if you're putting money towards it. Um, okay. The budget, personnel, you can have volunteers working. You could say that we got 10 volunteers working on it, and they're all getting $10 an hour. So you could say that that would be part of the cost sharing funding, saying that we're putting in all sweat equity into it. Someone's donating a bulldozer or something like that, or whatever supplies you need. And so if you can break it down, and the more that gets donated, the better it looks. And if you have budget cost sharing, which would be someone's kicking in some money, you could say that these organizations are donating money to help get it done and get it done properly. Oh, and then you have to attach a commitment letter from them. If they say they're gonna donate it, they have to commit to it.
Well, I would hope so.
Yes. And then also any other attempts, if you go around to everybody in the world asking for money to help do something on this, and everybody says, no, we can't afford it, no, we can't, no, it's not worth it, then you don't want to send out any, but if you describe that you've exhausted everything you can to come up with the money, that would say that this is our last resort. And just the other funds, what they are, the donated equipment, building, lands, or whatever it is. Timeline, this is kind of an important one. When do you plan on getting it done? The starting, and then what different phases of it. Like with the church windows, they're gonna, they have to pull the windows out, send them to the shop, and so that'll be, the other ones took about 6 months to get them all done. And so then they would reinstall them, and then they'll pull out another 6 windows, and it'll take another 6 months to get those done. So it could end up being a year before it's done. So that way the committee knows that it's gonna be at least a year-long project. Not just kind of hanging out in the dark saying, why don't you get anything done? Or even like the community garden. They were hoping it would go right along, get the shed and be done with it. That took a long time, but somehow we're gonna know when it's gonna be done and how it's gonna be done. Who will be the project manager? Someone should be in charge. How to get a hold of them, email. Maintenance, what are you gonna do to maintain the thing? Although the community preservation is not gonna fund any of the maintenance, but they just wanna know that you're protecting the money that the community preservation gave to them. And also where you're gonna get the money to do the maintenance. If you say, we're not gonna do any maintenance, we don't have any money, then we're not gonna give you the money to build it. And then it's just a budget guess of how it's gonna go. Site documentation, if you're not a town entity, you have to say that you actually have a deed to be able to do this. I mean, it's your property. Because you can't just do it to someone just borrowing the building, you can't just fund them for it. Project documentation, any applicable engineering plans, architectural drawings, site plans, anything, other renderings. So, something to come up with to show what you plan on doing. And put some time in. Else. Then you gotta sign it and say who you are. Say that the best of your knowledge or believe you did something. So,
That's basically how it works. We want to make it easy for people. We have an idea, we're happy to discuss it. By the meeting, we'll be happy to talk to you about it. We'll be happy to fill out the application.
Two questions.
Sure.
The first one is, the application changed from last year?
It did a little bit. For one thing, the date changed. Tim, did you add something new this year? The application itself?
I think we did change something to clear up a little bit better, somewhere along the way. But yes, it did change from last year.
But yeah, there was a minor change except for the date.
Then the second question is, how are the funds dispersed? Like, do I get it up front, or do I have to show you an invoice, or is it?
So, yeah, so as you develop invoices, you show them to us, we present them to the town pays them. That's basically how it goes.
Net 30,
Excuse me,
probably net 30 from the town.
net 30,
Whatever,
30 days.
30 days.
whatever,
I think you'd have to talk with the parties that, like the treasurer or whoever handles the money. I mean, we don't disperse the money, we approve the projects, or that will be put in at town meeting, and once it's been approved by the town, voted on, then it's kind of out of our hands. We don't handle any of the money or disbursements or things like that.
Yeah, the town pays on a 2-week basis.
Right, so I mean, what happens is we will get a bill or whatever from a grantee. We'll send it in to Mary Beth, and usually it's paid very quickly, so.
There's a minimum risk on the part of the person as far as fronting funds.
Yeah, there's not a lot of turnaround time. Gerhard, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, if I get a bill on Wednesday and I give it to Mary Beth on Friday,
Thank you.
it goes right to the next town warrant, which is usually within the next couple of weeks, and it gets
Right.
paid right away.
Yeah.
So it's quick.
and what the church has done on some of them, they paid it up front, and then they submit and get reimbursed by the town. So, and it doesn't take long.
Yeah, it's good.
Or if they, when we award a project, then there is also a grant agreement that we write up. And that's where it's kind of spelled out. And also, if you're hiring people, it would be stated in, when you get your quote, they're gonna tell you what they expect, and then you bring it up to the town and say, can you meet this? And if they say no, then they hash it out and figure out something happening. So,
Thank you.
but it is, once you turn in the bill, it just as quick as the town pays them, it's generally, they don't like to go into debts. I think they get it.
So that's basically how it works. So any questions about that?
It says that, incomplete applications will be returned, but you're saying that, like, if you don't have all your information, you should still submit an application.
Yeah, I mean,
And talk to us.
yeah, and so, I mean, we're not gonna
We'll
be,
help.
our goal is to try to approve applications when we can. So if we see something that needs a little more work, we're gonna try to help you get them.
And it looks a little daunting with these big blocks to fill in, but, they're just asking, what are the goals of, a sentence or two could cover that. You don't need a whole paragraph. Depends on the project, but
And
all this is kind of general.
that is
Don't
why
have to go
we're
too deep.
shooting for November 15th to get something in there so that they'll be returned, but nothing's gonna be voted on and saying, oh, we're gonna support this if it's not complete. It's gonna be returned, but if you come in at, sometime in May, when the town meeting's due, then
How many things do you turn down? How many applications?
Well, we don't like to turn down many. Last year, we did turn down, I think we approved 3, and we turned down 2 or 3 last year. But there were just some particular issues with those particular applications that made it difficult for us to approve it. But I think over the past few years, we've certainly approved the majority of the applications.
It would be our goal not to turn any down, unless it didn't fall within the scope of these.
But like you said, you would help if you put something in, you would say, hey, you need to do
That's
this.
why I consider, partial stuff.
Yeah.
You know, we
Good.
can.
I mean, our goal, we have one goal, and that's to help the town. We're not here to create roadblocks. Chances are, if you've applied for something, we know who you are, we're gonna track you down and try to help you make this work.
Linda's very good at tracking people down.
He tracks me down pretty regularly, actually.
And last year, we did turn one down that we didn't see that there was gonna be a huge benefit directly to Phillipston residents. It was something to do with a ball field at the school. So we didn't have any idea when it would be open to Phillipston residents to go use it anytime they wanted.
So that was
Again,
in Templeton.
yeah, it was in Templeton, and they wanted us to partner with Templeton to fund something at the school for a ball field, a practice field, soccer field, whatever it was. But could the Phillipston residents just go over there and play soccer anytime they wanted? And the answer was no, not during school and not during, and so it would limit it, so that's why we didn't really support it, because it wasn't a huge benefit, or we couldn't see a written benefit of saying when they'd be able to use it and how they. So that's why that was, so, but if it's gonna benefit the town,
Well, there was also a bottom line question in terms of two towns going together
Yeah.
on a CPC project. And I don't think we ever really got an answer, but we as a group felt that CPC Phillipston money should stay in Phillipston, and we voted that down.
if it was an open space project and it was right on the town line and they were trying to preserve a big area and say, we wanna preserve this big chunk of area, we're gonna have hiking trails all through it, and they may go back and forth through Phillipston and Templeton, then that would be something that would be open to the public all the time, and it could be supported a little bit better, even though part of it would be in Templeton or Athol or Peter Sam.
Well, it depends on the situation.
Yeah. And
That was blatant.
Yeah. so that would be something that if the towns wanted to go together and do something, it could be a little bit more support.
So, but the bottom line is, if you've got something of a historical nature, open space, recreation, or public housing, we'd like to know about it. We'd like to help you with that application and work with you to see if we can help you provide funding. Yeah,
We have looked into the public housing thing several times. Public housing and or senior housing. The problem becomes with that is that if we take any public funds, which we would have to do because we can't afford to do a multi-million project like that, is that the state will come in and put whoever they want in there, and we have very little say on who gets to stay there. So they may designate 10 spots out of, say, 20 or 30 for Phillipston residents. If we have more residents that would like to live there, that's too bad, because they haven't already filled it with other people that have a right to stay there. So that's kind of why we shied away from it, because first of all, we don't have the funds to do it all on our own. And then the more government you allow in, the more they take over and do whatever they want. And so,
Add the gears, the percentage of Phillipston residents being able to live there was rather small. And the other side of that coin was the residents who applied and could live there could be anywhere from the state of Massachusetts. They could be like from Athol or Gardner. They could be from Boston, Springfield, Westfield.
Lawrence, Lowell,
Yep.
If they wanna come with this, not no boxing or anything, honestly.
And that's the problem too, is
You know what I mean?
that we're very slow on the marketing. It's building up, but right now there's not good access. If we were to do it, the best place would be somewhere along State Road because the bus already travels through there.
Right.
If it's out here, it would get much more expensive for the town. We're already paying $10,000 a year now. It just came up for Carla. She pushed this. She was wonderful at that. Thank you very much, Carla. For the disabled thing, for the mark thing and all that that's coming through. So that's a big benefit for the townspeople. And so unfortunately, it's taken quite some time to get this thing moving. Anything dealing with the state takes forever. And so we are slowly coming up, but it's going to be many years before this town gets to the point where we can do senior housing. Or,
I'll be dead by then.
yeah.
And the thing with it is, it's community housing.
Can't be seen.
It doesn't specify senior housing, it's community. So that's where we all want to have some sort of senior housing, but we all need to have some community housing too, but.
Well, if you follow the project that Athol's involved in right now, out behind the church there, there was a couple of really, really beautiful schools that they decided to build new for. There's so many low income, there's so many this, so many that, so many regular income, all different categories have a certain percentage that are going to be allowed to apply to live there eventually. That's a big project. That's the same as the one up in Templeton, Ballville. The same criteria. It all depends, certain percentages. There's a lot of money goes into those from the state and fed.
But both of those have housing authorities already.
All right.
We don't say who buys the house next to us. We don't say you came from Lowell, you can't buy the house next to us. So I think with community housing. So why if somebody moves from somewhere else? That's just my
Point
opinion.
is, a low percentage of residents.
Right, but CPC doesn't come up with the projects.
I know.
It's funding. If you have a project, we could find a place to give money to.
So can I ask about one project that I'd like to work on?
Sure.
I'll just step right over here to this wonderful thing here on the board. Everybody has seen this for many years now. Well, hopefully,
I almost erased that last week.
well, it says Dawn, it doesn't say Tom. It's John. So this is a diagram of, I met a while back with National Grid, and we discussed removing the pole from the common, because we're trying to make it look a little bit more like the historic thing. And that pole is got up. And we have wires that come from the pole here, which is just across the street from Karen's house. Oh, no, it's this one here. And they kind of cross to here and then over to there, and then they go up here by the school and go that way. They also come in from over here to a pole over here, comes to here and that way. So what we'd like to do, and this was started by the Cemetery Commission, was that they were looking to put water on the common because they have no way to water that at this time. And the ground there gets rather dry and doesn't look very good. So we looked into the well that's there, and it is possible to reuse the water. It has a little bit of salt to it, but I think it is probably feasible to use. So now if we can get this pole and put it over here, which is next to the, pretty much where that post office box is there, along the driveway where the police station is. Then we can use that to feed the town hall and that little house that's there. And get this thing right off the phone. But we would have to take the wires from here and go underground to either this pole or just continue on over there in order to get these wires off here. And then this line here is for the low voltage, like the telephone and the fiber optics and the TV wires. So that's another project in and of itself. But you can't have the low voltage in with the line voltage. That's why they're separated out. And what we'd like to do is possibly move that little service that's next to that pole over to closer to the bushes by the, what's that thing, Karen, that's there?
The monument,
Where the flag is there.
the memorial.
Memorial, yes, thank you. And so that we can still use the light to light the flag, which is a requirement of having that flag. And then we could set up a little pump and have water set up and go to an underground handhole where the cemetery commission can tie in for their watering and all that stuff. So unfortunately, because I had talked to National Grid about 3 years ago now, they have closed out that work request number. So now I have to start all over again. But I talked to somebody that works with National Grid, a tree guy, and he has done projects like this before, and he thought that this whole project would be somewhere in the vicinity of probably $200,000 to $300,000. That I don't know if that is feasible under the historic preservation, but I mean it would make the town look a lot better. We also have a study going on with Ty and Bond in order to clean up this whole thing, and that's already been funded. So that's in the progress.
Was any of this brought up to Ty and Bond? I mean,
Oh yeah.
and is that part of what they're gonna present to the town? Have they presented that already?
No, they haven't presented that yet.
Is that gonna be part of it?
I believe it should be.
Oh.
So that's something that I think we should. I think that would make the town look a heck of a lot better. The one problem is that these wires here that go overhead are some of them have three-phase wires, which are very high voltage and unfortunately rather expensive to put underground. It wouldn't be so much money if there wasn't three-phase, but the three-phase goes to the school, comes here, and that's what we have to deal with. So, I mean, I'm gonna put an application in for that, if you don't mind.
Absolutely, and I can say that just in terms of whether we can fund it or not, in my opinion, we can. I mean, first of all, it's an historic district, we know it.
Right.
Second of all, it's basically to, I mean, the way I take it, it's to preserve and improve the historic district, so that
Right.
certainly falls into our bailiwick of funding, so I would say submit it, and it seems like something we can certainly consider.
Now, the problem is this project probably won't start for another 5 years, so.
What project?
This underground thing.
Well, I believe the project that's going on now is that they were gonna identify from people in town what they'd like to see there, and they were gonna present a couple of different versions of improvements to the common.
Right.
So, but no money has been approved to do anything other than the study.
Right.
So, I think that would be a logical continuation of that first project, to get
Right.
funding to do some of the things that come up.
Right.
That's why I was wondering if it was part of that study and how they viewed it.
Part of the reason we'd like to move forward on this also is that Rick Tenney mentioned that somewhere in the near future, he's gonna have to repave the common, the area around the common. So we'd like to get this done before he does.
It's always nice to get new, cut and then cut it open.
Yeah,
Isn't that how they always?
that's how it usually works, yeah.
Well, I would say Gary, or Garrett, submit the application, I mean, it's certainly within our bailiwick, we can consider it. I know that, the study was one thing that approved, whatever the study recommends, that's gonna require additional money, so.
Or a separate project, by all means.
I was just gonna ask, looking what these lines are going, didn't we just have a presentation about how all that was gonna be getting ripped up? Or possibly, redesigning the whole common, getting rid of that middle road?
Well, no, that's part of the discussion.
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so now, we found an old picture that has that road, that middle road in it. So that road's been there for a very long time. So we may not be getting rid of that road.
Oh, that would be
Because it
good.
is historic.
Yeah.
And Adam has shown me 3 different sketches. There have been some sketches that have come out from time to time. And he has had meetings with highway police and fire about the roads and the traffic and being able to maneuver. So he has had a couple meetings with them. So it is moving forward. I don't know when Adam's gonna be presenting what they've already done.
Does the time bond report, that exists on our website, at the Phillipston website?
It's not up there yet, because right now we're just in the preliminary, I can't say where it's good. So once we decide, there'll be a meeting to look at what they've brought so far, and then they'll make a decision of,
Right, because that was part of the project that came to us, and that would come with a couple of different versions of what the town might like to
it
see.
looks right now they won't be taking out the middle road, I don't.
Whether they do or don't,
Mr. Speck?
I just want to say on this topic, the townsfolk are gonna have to realize, number one, they'll have to, eventually at an annual town meeting, vote on the final idea, number one. And number two, I'm quite sure in one figure that I heard somewhere around $3 million, then the town folks are gonna have to figure out a way to pay for it if they wanna have it done. And in financial, from the finance committee standpoint, I don't know if we could finance something as large as that, even with DPC
Assistant.
help.
There'd have to be a lot of grants sought and everything like that, because we would not be able to throw another $3 million on the budget, even for a 20-year loan. That would
There might be some
Yeah.
roadways, because as you see sidewalks and put in different places, there is some state money out there that has to do with pedestrian travel and making things.
It's safer, yeah.
and that would fall under the, where else would there be funds available?
Right, there are ones, yeah.
And with the wiring or moving the wires, and it could be a fund started to, and every year put some more in there. If it's started right up front saying this is gonna be a 3-year, 4-year project, then it would have to be stated up front. We can't put any money anywhere unless we know how much it is, so it couldn't be just saying, we wanna do this and we just need a bunch of money. You have to have.
Well, it could be a multiple phase.
Yeah, but you'd have to have a quote, some sort of a quote from National Grid saying it's gonna be 300,000, or, and it would have to kind of be a firm one saying that,
Yeah.
because we can't just keep adding money.
Alters, yeah.
But we don't want to say no. I mean, it sounds
Yeah.
like a good idea.
Yeah.
If the town could use the money for something like that, that's what this money's for.
Tom?
I can't see why our road manager couldn't dig up a trench from the town hall to the common
Oh, yeah,
and
they be doing that.
put water there, which we do have the right to do. And while he's digging the trench, add another pipe for the future if we decide to run cable through it. At least we could get the water done soon. Whatever it costs to dig across the road and lay the pipe and connect into the water.
But that's,
And water over
But
there.
that's
6
digging up the
feet
road,
long.
and they don't wanna do that too soon in advance, because it could be several years before they get back to doing anything else.
but that's a whole nother issue.
Yeah, but you're talking two things. You're talking water, and you're talking electricity running under there.
But
There's no
that's-
reason why we
that's something
can't
that
do water,
The
because it
selectmen,
has nothing to do with National Grid.
the selectmen can, unless they wanna come to the community preservation to get some money to run it across there, that's something that the selectmen could just decide to do.
Yeah.
So that's not for us to
And that
plan
wouldn't
right
be so
now.
cost prohibitive either.
Yeah,
Right.
Well,
it'll be done today.
in answer to Gary's question, I think it's certainly a good
viable-
application, and we'd like to be able to review it.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Other thoughts or questions?
I'll just add, if anyone is thinking of anything historically, tomorrow night at 5 o'clock, the Historical Commission is meeting up at the town hall. So if you want to go there and discuss anything with them, because you will need, information from them too. Just wanted to let you know.
We've heard some, we had some great back and forth with the Historical Society a couple of months ago, so there's some possible application ideas there. So we're looking forward to hearing from the Historical Society, so it sounds like there's some legitimate things going forward there. We'd love to hear about that. I don't know if there's anything you want to share about that tonight.
So I have a question on that. The back ramp was built with pressure treated, but I think they got the pressure treated at Home Depot, and it hasn't lasted.
This is on the Historical Society?
Historical Society building. Can we replace that with something, it wouldn't be historic looking, but can we replace that with something metal maybe, or something that may last a little longer?
The pressure treated wasn't with community funds though, right?
No.
It was-
No,
Oh,
no, the society paid for that themselves.
Part of the historic, if you go to, I forgot what it is, CFR 68-39 or something like that, don't quote me on that. It tells all about historical requirements from the Department of Interior that specifies how you can historically preserve something. And one of them is, you can add on to a historic building, and as long as it doesn't, you couldn't take in the Historical Society and add a wing to it that's like 16 times the size of it, out of stone and steel, and say that, wow, it's historic, you know? But you couldn't do something like that. Would have to, whatever you add on would have to be compatible with the building itself, and so that it doesn't change the look of it, and it also has to be reversible. So if all of a sudden they decided, we can tear this down, and it would go right back to the original historic building.
Doesn't sound like a giant
So-
addition, would
Yeah.
it?
well, the thing is
But-
that the ramp is not
Yeah.
historic to begin with.
But that's adding on to, you know, you can add it to it to make it accessible, and so it's, it would be nice if it was made to look like a historic, but you can't create something to make it look historic or say that it was historic with the funds to say, well, this is what they would have built back in the 1800s, because they wouldn't have built it back in the 1800s. So,
So what about a metal one, where there'd be, you don't have to do a lot of upkeep or maintenance on it? But
putting that on there, I don't see where that would be a problem. I don't think,
they have movable ones, you
Yeah.
know, so that when and if we can get an add on to the building, you can just take that off
Yeah.
and put it on the addition if you wanted.
and I don't think that would detract from the historic of it, that we wouldn't be able to, you know, give funds towards the building. I don't think we'd be able to fund it, you know, the ramp, because it doesn't, there's nothing in there saying for access. It just says for preserving or restoring or not maintaining, but keeping it from falling down.
Tim, I think there is a section though that refers to accessibility. And if it makes a historic building accessible to wheelchair, walker, or whatever, that might be appropriate.
Yeah, maybe there is something that you could add a handicap bathroom inside.
Because you have to use common sense on some of these
Yeah.
things, because
Well,
how historic is
I see Tom's got his hand up, so let's hear from Tom.
I'm just saying, you know, there's been some ideas kicked around. I'll throw another one out if somebody wants to take the ball and run with it. We can't. And that is putting a well in for the kids over at the ballpark.
why he's there.
Oh.
You're not a
Came
kid.
into the application anyway.
And I keep trying to think, didn't CPC pay for the one over at the garden? The farmer's garden, or farmer's?
I know
That was a while back,
Yeah,
Right, right.
yes, they.
I mean, if it comes down to that, that'll all be on the application, I would,
Yeah,
And lights,
Well, I don't know about the lights, but this whole well, I don't think it's gonna give us the volume we need. But, I don't know, Gerhard might be able to answer it, might, because the electric company, can a single line be metered? But, so the Parks and Rec, or cemetery for that matter, could pay the monthly fee on electric, and we won't be burning out a pump.
Yep.
And, you know, I know a couple of people that I think would help out, as far as getting all the lines laid down and all.
Highways.
Well, I'm not even talking about them, but, you know, people that would do it for a more than reasonable rate.
Yeah, and that's all part of the.
Right, that's why I'm
Cost
sitting
sharing.
here quietly.
Yeah.
So I'll put it on here.
So in reference to the question that you raised about the ramp and all of that, these things get sticky, and there's a lot of rules about it. What we can do, if we know that there's an idea out there, even if it's not even something that we've gotten an application on, we can go to the Community Preservation Coalition, and we can find out from them if it's gonna be fundable or not, and we can let you know, so.
Yeah, 'cause it's not the ramp, it's just the railing.
Right, so anything that's a little bit,
It's the ramp too?
Yeah, the ring.
anything that's questionable. about
Regardless,
whether
we could
can
ask
find out, we
the
can find it
coalition.
out and let you know.
I'm sure that that's come up
Well,
somewhere.
there's
along the
another,
way.
there's another way to look at this too. We have looked at things and approved them that have been very questionable, and the idea was, you know, it'll go to selectmen will send it to council will rubber stamp it, go to the townsfolk vote it, and then before you know it, it's approved by the Attorney General, and so, ta-da, it happens.
Right, so I mean,
And personally, I vote yes in terms of the ramp and whether it was made out of concrete or made out of cobblestone or whatever.
so,
Even a covered ramp, nice little covered area, so.
Right, as long as it was done within the historic commission, or they knew and had input on it, I'm sure that it's something that we could do.
Carl?
Yeah, would it be possible to, if it doesn't work under the historic angle, would it be possible that it would work under recreation? Because that allows access to everybody to recreate down there.
Well,
a good
as far-
question.
As far as the ball field goes, yes. As far
No,
as-
I was thinking the ramp for the historical society, because that gives access to everyone.
No, that's not really recreation.
That would be,
Depends what you're doing with it.
Be a little further than stretching the gymnasium. So. It'd be nice to think it.
Okay, we'll put that one in too then.
Yeah. So anyway, Wayne Gretzky says that you never make a shot that you don't take, right? So,
Right, and that goes along with what Tom was saying. It looked like that was not in the confines of the project, but it got proved all the way, it made sense, and it's being done.
But if it
So-
was covered
Well,
and
we're not gonna
made it
plan-
to look like the same building, the same clapboard, the same style, same kind of roof, that even may be a better idea in terms of trying to get a metal one in there and whatnot.
I think if we let them plan something and then come to us.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I just,
so that's basically what we got. We'd love to take your applications. If you have questions, so.
When's your next meeting, do you know the date of
Next,
it?
next meeting is, second, Monday in, October. So that'll be, what?
Got a calendar over there.
I know,
I'll tell you in a
I
second.
can't see the number.
October
Second
6th.
Monday in October is the 13th.
That's Columbus
I
Day.
thought you said first Monday.
Second Monday.
Oh, we won't be
Yeah, that's
here.
Columbus Day.
That's Columbus Day.
That's Columbus Day, you're not gonna have it that day,
So
so
probably, I guess it'll be,
the following Monday?
probably the following Monday.
The 20th then.
Well, we got to wait and see, is there anybody else on the every other Monday type thing?
Yeah, so we'll post it, but long about the middle of October, we'll be meeting, and again in November.
Okay.
Are they really saying $3 million?
I don't know.
I was gonna say,
No.
Up in Athol, that whole green of Lord Pond Plaza, daylighting the street and everything else there is.
They spent lots of time.
Right, yeah. No, I don't know what he was talking about.
Well, if,
No, it's
unless there's an
definitely.
objection, we're gonna adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Aye.